What's up guys, welcome to another video at Movement Mechanics. After Tom Platz said this,
do the squat. It's the hardest thing in the world to do the squat. This is balance and control and it's scary. But that's why it's so effective, okay? The hardest things.
I decided to make a video of the squat on the Movement Mechanics. Now squat is one of the best movement which you should do in your day-to-day life or your athletic life. And now Tom Platz is one of the most famous bodybuilders and he loves the squat. He always said that whatever exercise you are going to do, the squat is the best exercise because it is scary because of balance, stability, control and many more things. So let's break down this exercise which is the squat movement by movement and understand each and every component thoroughly. So let's dive deep inside this topic and understand some movement mechanics. First, we need to know about the mechanics of the squat. Now, squat is an hip dominant exercise and not a quad dominant exercise. That means your gluteus maximus is a major muscle which is going to work in the exercise. So, the bar placement at your shoulders is going to be very critical because there are two grips. One is a high grip and one is a low grip when we are talking about the squat. So, when you are talking about the back squat, it is imperative that you always choose the low grip squat because of the force vector changes. So, if you are going to keep a high bar grip while doing a back squat, the force vector is going to be more towards your quadriceps. But if you keep a low bar grip which is onto your posterior deltoids, which you are going to look in a minute, it is going to create a glute dominant exercise. That means your glute maximus is going to be working more than any other muscle into your lower body. So make sure that if you are squatting, it is a low bar grip and not a high bar grip. So let's see how to place the barbell when we talk about a low bar grip. Now, placing the barbell in a low bar grip is very simple. Take a slightly wider grip onto your hands over here and make sure you are placing the barbell onto your posterior deltoids. So this is where your posterior deltoids are and make sure you are placing the barbell here and not just above your posterior deltoid, which is your high bar grip. So just go under the bar, take a wider and shoulder width apart grip and place this barbell over here and not here. If you place this over here, this is a high bar grip. But if you place it over here, then that becomes a low bar grip and that is where your criticality of the squat comes into the picture. So once you have placed the bar over here, make sure you have got a wider grip when it comes to your hands, not a closer grip like this. Because if you are having a close grip, again, you cannot balance the bar at your posterior deltoid. So keep your hands slightly wider than normal and keep the bar onto your posterior deltoids. Alright, so the hands are set, the bar is set. Now it comes to the most important part of the squat, which is your feet. Now you have to move your feet and hence your feet needs to be very stable and the stance becomes the most important part of the exercise. If your stance is not proper, that means the squat is not going to be executed properly. You are going to have some sort of mistakes going into the squat. So make sure you have got this exact stance which I am going to show you in this video. So start off with a slightly wider than shoulder width apart stance, not too close nor too wide. It should be slightly wider, roughly around 1 inch away from your shoulder width. Secondly, now feet should be externally rotated always. Your feet shouldn't be straight or in internal rotation but in external rotation. Now why external rotation is, some people tend to undergo internal rotation of the knee, which is valgus movement. Now in order to prohibit that internal rotation, you need to engage your glute medius. And now keeping your feet externally rotated, that means toes slightly going out in a 45-degree angle, that is going to allow that glute medius activation. But if you have got good mobility as well as good glute medius strength, that means you can keep your feet straight in this manner. So if you're keeping it straight, then your glute medius activation is slightly prohibited and the risk of internal rotation of the knee increases. But with good ankle mobility and good glute medius strengthening, you can keep the feet straight as well. This is very rare because mostly people love keeping it in external rotation because of the stability component. Now secondly, we understood the feet placement, but how to keep that but how to get that stability and how to make sure that you have got a very firm base. Now this becomes very critical. Now let's go down and understand how to increase the stability. Firstly, you shouldn't keep your fingers close like this. It should be always nice and wide, giving a strong base. So if your fingers are close, your feet are not in a strong firm base. So spread your fingers as much as possible and push the feet down into the ground so that you get a very strong base. Now once you have gotten this, that means your base is strong and you have got control onto your barbell as well as onto your movement. So there is no risk here involved. Of course, the movement is risky, the squat movement is risky, but we have cut down the risk by spreading our fingers and pushing those feet down under to the ground so that you get a very firm and fantastic base. I always recommend my athletes and my clients to place your feet on some sort of marker so that your feet aren't placed uneven. That means one foot is back or one foot is forward. That is prohibited. So always start off, if you have got a marker or some sort of line onto your squat rack or whatever it is, make sure that your toes are exactly in the same line onto the marker. If you don't have a marker already given, make sure you draw a line with a pen or something like that so that you get a rough idea where you should place your feet so that there is no uneven placement of the feet. Alright, now we have set the grip and the barbell and the feet placement as well. Now comes the actual movement. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, it is a glute dominant exercise. That means your force production mainly should happen with the help of the glute maximus. The exercise should be glute dominant, and now this is where that low bar positioning comes into the picture. When you do a back squat, there is a 45-degree angle which should form in your body. If the angle is not 45-degree or it is 90-degree, that means it becomes more an anterior chain dominant exercise. That means your quads are working more than your glutes. Now that is the scenario when it comes to a high bar squat or a front squat. It becomes more quad dominant because your torso is not leaning forward. It stays straight. We are going to see the exact same thing in a minute, but make sure that you have got that low bar position and your body is forming a 45-degree angle. So let's see the squat from a posterior view, that means from the back and then from the side, so that you understand the angles and the feet placement and the movement exactly. Alright, so let's get under the bar with a wide grip over here, sitting onto our posterior deltoids and not over here, onto our posterior deltoids. Hands are nice and strong and wide. You shouldn't place it over here, but slightly wider. So take this bar, come back, set your feet on an imaginary line or a artificial line, whatever it is, so that your toes are in one line, your heel is in one line, feet slightly externally rotated, wider than shoulder width, fingers of course spreaded, and push that feet down to make a firm base. Now from here, what you need to do is you need to slightly lean forward and then squat this way. Now this is what a back squat should look like. There is a 45-degree angle which is formed in my body, and this is how a back squat should be, rather than a squat being with a high bar position, hands closed. This is not forming an exact 45-degree angle. My torso is slightly straighter than a low bar squat. So always onto the posterior deltoids, looking straight, chest up, and leaning forward slightly from the torso and forming a 45-degree angle so that you get a strong base and a good force production from your glutes. Alright, so what is the checklist when we talk about the back squat? The first thing is your grip. It should be wider, this much, and the bar positioning has to be onto your posterior deltoids. One. Second thing is your feet placement. Your feet should be equally placed, externally rotated slightly to activate that glute medius, fingers spreaded, and you are pushing the ground with the feet so that you get a very firm base. Thirdly, your chest and your head should be nice and tall. Your chest should be out, shoulders retracted, you're looking straight and not down. If you're looking down, that means you are going to lean more and more forward and the bar may fall off. Okay, so that's the reason you should be nice and tall with your chest out, shoulders retracted, and you're looking straight. Next up is the leaning forward in the squats. You have to lean slightly forward at the start of the squat so that you get into that 45-degree angle and not a straight angle at your upper body. Once you get into that 45-degree angle, your glute is activated much more than your quadriceps. So this is one of the very basic movement and an imperative movement which makes your entire body nice and strong. This is going to be a very fundamental exercise which is going to be beneficial for an athlete, a general guy, a person who is just going to go to a 9-to-5 job, or a guy who just wants to stay fit. Squats are imperative and you should do it. And Tom Platz, I really appreciate he loving the squat and mentioning that you should be doing the squat always, because it is one of the most scariest exercise, and that's the reason it is one of the best exercise. Alright guys, so that was the squat, and thanks to Tom Platz I did this video. If you have loved this video, make sure you hit the like, the share, the subscribe, as well as the notification bell icon so that you never miss a video whenever I'm uploading a new one. Also, if you've got any doubts or any comments regarding this video, or you've got any other video suggestions which you want me to cover in the future, make sure you drop that in the comment section as well. Thank you guys, see you in the next one.